Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings Pick6. I am Mike Barner. He is Kieran Sprecher, and we are here every Wednesday to help you win your fantasy basketball leagues. Kieran, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, we got lots of news and notes today, some good stuff, some bad stuff, so let's get to it. First of all, positive news. Joel Embiid made his season debut for the 76ers last night against the Knicks. He played 26 minutes, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 block. He was rusty. He shot 2 for 11 from the field. But Kieran, Joel Embiid is back.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's back, but he's back to that this version of himself that isn't quite the MVP caliber version. We'll see what happens moving forward. He looked like he hadn't played basketball in a long time. He probably hasn't been playing 5-on-5 like at that type of level yet. I'm sure he'll be fine. He says he wants to play tonight after all of the nonsense that he said during the preseason about sitting out back-to-backs. He said he's a troll. He's probably going to have to defer to the medical staff after the performance he had last night. I don't think that he'll play tonight and give him some extra rest to make sure that that body is 100% moving forward.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be very cautious with him. He was on a 25 to 30 minute restriction last night. He ended up playing 26. Andre Drummond played 18 minutes off the bench, 5 points, 4 rebounds, and a block. I'm still not dropping Drummond even with Embiid back. So another non-injury one, which is kind of nice. Klay Thompson played his first game against the Warriors Tuesday. He had 22 points. He hit 6 3-pointers. He has 5 games this season with at least 4 3-pointers. He's shooting 37.2% from 3. A lot of emotions last night, Kieran, and Klay's return to the Bay.
Yeah, the game last night was a lot of fun. There was a lot of like fanfare going on beforehand. They all had their captain hats on. Klay is Klay at this point. He had spurts where he looked like prime Klay, where he hit a couple threes on back-to-back possessions, but then he also airballed a couple threes in really big moments. He was clearly trying to make a statement. Luka and Kyrie were trying to pass him the ball a lot. Curry got the last laugh in the end. From a fantasy perspective, like Klay is nothing more than like a 3-point specialist that'll get you points sometimes too. Like he's not the defender that he was back in the day. It's nice to see him score 20 points. Like it was kind of like a win-win, right? Like Klay got to show the Warriors that like, you know, he still has a little bit left in the tank, and the Warriors were like, we're probably better without you.
Yeah, he's only, even with that performance last night, he's only averaging 14.5 points per game this season. That is his lowest average since his rookie season, so we should expect much of the same from Klay moving forward. Now, laundry list of injuries, unfortunately. Damian Lillard did not play Tuesday against the Raptors because of a concussion. The Bucks scored 99 points in the game against the Raptors team that has the second worst defensive rating in the league. One player of note, AJ Green. He's averaging 13.2 points, 4.4 3-pointers over the last 5 games. He averaged 27 minutes a game during that span. Doesn't seem like a long-term issue here with Lillard. Obviously, concussion, might miss a couple of games. But what do you think about AJ Green? Anybody to consider there if you need 3-pointers?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in deeper leagues, he's one of those guys that I've keep my tabs on just to see like when he gets playing time, because he will rack up threes rather quickly. Obviously, I don't, like you said, this isn't going to be a long-term injury with Dame. The reporting was that he was hit in the head by a ref who was like trying to make a call during Sunday's game, and then like started experiencing dizziness and headaches like the next day. He's probably going to miss tonight's game. And then, we'll be back on track to suit up this weekend and stuff. So, while AJ Green has hit some threes, if Lillard is back in the lineup, Green probably moves back down 20, 30 spots in my opinion.
Yeah, crazy thing is they already seem to be out on Gary Trent Jr. Jackson there has been playing more. So I think Green's going to get more minutes than Trent moving forward. He's not someone you even consider in a 10-team league, only if you're desperate in a 12-teamer for 3-pointers. But in 14 and deeper, yeah, AJ Green is someone that I agree would have on my radar.
I will say with the Gary Trent thing, he's been dealing with a back injury, but yeah, yep. Part of the reason that he was moved out of the rotation might have been because of the back, but like he's also not playing well. So if this back thing is an issue, like there's no reason to play him because he's not effective. So I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but I do think that if he ever gets over that back thing, Trent will hopefully be a part of the rotation.
All right. Trae Young also did not play Tuesday against the Celtics. He had right Achilles tendonitis. And the Hawks won. What was that? I couldn't believe that. Should have been our what was that stat line. They were 15-point, I think, underdogs going into that game, and the Hawks won. Dyson Daniels, 28 points, 7 assists, 6 steals over 41 minutes. Jalen Johnson with a triple-double. The Hawks' next game is Friday against the Wizards, so we have a little bit of time here for Trae Young. Doesn't seem like a serious injury here. I know you're going to talk about Dyson Daniels later, so I won't make you shoot your shot there on that yet. But what a performance by the Hawks last night to beat the Celtics.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought the ESPN app was malfunctioning when I saw the final score of that game. I was like, this can't be true. But I'm not trying to hit the panic button, but anytime Achilles pops up on the injury report, people should be on high alert. For now, it seems like Young is day to day. Like you said, they have a couple days before they have to suit up again. So maybe it was like a maintenance thing. Like you don't play today, you get like almost a full week off sort of deal. But yeah, anytime Achilles pops up, I'm nervous. We'll like you said, we'll talk about Daniels later. Keaton Wallace started in Young's place and played 32 minutes. So there's like a little like short-term add if Young does have to miss time. But like I said, we're not like really anticipating a long-term absence as of yet. But it's every day, every hour, it seems like there's a new update with a guy going down for a couple of weeks. So be on high alert for a Young update.
All right. Jimmy Butler missed his second straight game for the Heat yesterday. Tyler Hero exploded in his absence. He had 40 points, 8 assists, 4 steals, 10 three-pointers against the Pistons. Jimmy Butler, hurt again. Is this going to be Bulls minute?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the last time Butler played 76 games during his final season in Chicago. That was 2016, 2017. Feels like a lifetime ago for us Bulls fans. Since then, Butler has played more than 60 regular season games only 3 times and never more than 65 games in the season. It shouldn't be surprising to any of us that Butler is missing time as he gets older and, the Heat prepare for playoff basketball. They've been in the playoffs, whether, they've been down in the standings the last couple of years, but they continue to be a playoff caliber team, and Butler, is preparing himself for the playoffs. He's probably not going to play 70 games. He's probably not going to play 65 games. This shouldn't be a surprise, but like no long-term concerns as in like he's going to miss 2 to 3 months. Even when he's out there, like there's still been some like confusion as to whether or not he is that like alpha dog that it can be during the playoffs. So Butler's fantasy value has been trending down for me for a long time. This injury doesn't really change that. Haywood Highsmith and Kevin Love have moved into the starting lineup with Butler out, and then that also means Nikola Jovic has moved to the bench. So, not from a fantasy perspective, there's not much really to see here. A lot of like shifting parts with rotation guys like coming in and out. But like you said, Hero gets to be that lead dog now with Butler out, and he's rostered in probably every league. So I'm not saying to pick him up or anything, but he gets a huge boost here in the near future.
I think Jimmy Butler has more name value than he does actual fantasy value. So when he comes back, if you can get him to play 5-6 games in a row, start floating out those trade offers, because there will be time again later on the season where Butler is sidelined. So that would be something once he gets healthy. If I have him, I'm shopping him. Now, another recent injury, Anfernee Simons left Tuesday's game against the Timberwolves with shortness of breath. He did not return. Good news is it doesn't seem like this is going to be a serious issue. They said he should be okay moving forward. But that was a little bit of a weird one. He only played 5 minutes yesterday. You don't hear too many things like that. It does make you a little bit worried with breathing issues. Obviously, teams are going to be cautious with that. But initial reports carrying over that Simons is in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they said there was going to be more testing today. I would assume just like out of precaution that he won't suit up today just because give him a couple days to get his win back or whatever it was. But all signs appear to be like, not a super serious injury, which is good. Portland is a mess. If he does miss any time, Scoot Henderson maybe can move into the starting lineup and, try to be that number 2 overall pick that he was. But it's just there's not much to see. Denny Avdija has moved to the bench. Shaden Sharp is back. Really, the biggest storyline from that game was Robert Williams just having a crazy game. So, I'm not trying to put too much investment into any Trailblazers right now because who knows what their rotation is going to look like in a month from now.
Yeah, what a letdown game that was for the Timberwolves yesterday. Ayton didn't play. Simons only played 5 minutes, and they got blown out.
Yeah.
That was a pretty ugly loss for Timberwolves.
The Timberwolves are one of the healthiest teams in the league, and that makes my job a lot easier. And seeing that performance was like, maybe you should throw some guys on the injury report, because what's going on? Naz Reid was the only guy who was scoring, and then he thought that he was him at the end of the game and took up some bad shots. So definitely a letdown loss for Minnesota, who's now flirting with 500.
Another injury yesterday. Bradley Beal left the Jazz against the Jazz in the fourth quarter. Left calf tightness, did not return. Kevin Durant is already out. Yusuf Nurkic didn't play yesterday. So rough spot now here for the Suns. It might have been a score situation yesterday, but we'll see here with Bradley Beal. Anything excite you on the Suns with all their injury issues right now, Kerrion?
I mean, I think with Kevin Durant out, Ryan Dunn has moved into the starting lineup. If Beal misses any time, I would assume it's Grayson Allen is next man up, and we know what he can do when he gets a bunch of minutes. Beal can't catch a break. Since playing 82 games in back-to-back seasons with Washington back in 2017 and 2018, Beal has played 57 games, 60, 40, 50, 53. That's not conducive to fantasy production at all. Like I said, maybe Grayson Allen gets some time. Maybe Tyus Jones gets more usage. He's had some solid assist games. He had a big 20-point game the other night. So a lot of moving parts here. I don't think Beal is going to miss like too much time, but like Butler, you have to expect these periodic absences, which can really hurt you if you're in like a week-long lineup block.
Now, this is not I feel like this is baseball season with this next one. Immanuel Quickley is out for at least 1 week with a partial tear in his UCL. You hear tear in UCLs and you cover baseball like I do, you immediately, Tommy John surgery. Good news here, Immanuel Quickley, this is to his non-shooting arm, but he's going to miss at least a week. Grady Dick exploded with Quickley out yesterday. He had 32 points against the Bucks. Davion Mitchell had 8 assists. When Quickley was out earlier this season, Mitchell started 8 straight games. He averaged 10.3 points, 6.8 assists, and 1.4 3-pointers. I don't know. A week, maybe it's just because of the baseball stuff. Whenever I hear partial tear in UCL, that's a season thing. But, man, this injury makes me nervous with Quickley.
Yeah, I've seen some reports that it could be as long as a month too. So a week is probably like best case scenario. Like you said, non-shooting shoulders, like really the only bright spot. Davion Mitchell should start. Jamal Shead should see increased minutes off the bench, but really Grady Dick and RJ Barrett are the guys who are going to see more usage. Quigley missed training camp and 4 preseason games to a thumb injury. Then he suited up for the season opener, had a really good first quarter, and then he had the bruised pelvis / back, missed 8 straight games, returned to action, scored 21 in his return, and now is back on the shelf. So this is just a string of like random bad luck injuries, in my opinion. Like, a bruised like tailbone is like so random. And then you said like a baseball injury to your non-shooting shoulder, like feels like I don't want to say like, talk about injury prone players. I don't think Quigley is that. It seems like this is just bad luck. He averaged 75 games a season in his first 3 years in the league. So he is one of those guys that is proven to be like, a workhorse, a stable guy that you can count on. So I think when he does come back, even if that's in a month from now, you can be confident about him like staying healthy, hopefully. But this is not good. I have him in a couple leagues, and I moved him in and out of my IR spot like 3 times already this season.
Oh, those are the worst. Well, one of my favorites, Walker Kessler, missed his first game of the season Tuesday. He had right hip soreness. Doesn't sound overly concerning. He's been great. He's averaged 9.2 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 2.9 blocks. He's averaging 26 minutes a game, which is up from 23 minutes a game last season. John Collins started yesterday. Awesome game. 29 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals over 34 minutes. Kyle Filipowski had 18 points and 20 off the bench. Not anything seems like we need to panic right now about with Walker Kessler, but man, he's been playing more this year. The stats have been great. I don't like to see it.
Yeah, I think this is just like a one-off look. Like he's a huge human being, and he's playing more minutes than he's used to. This might have been a reason why Will Hardy had been limiting his minutes last year, because it's just hard for a big guy like that to play 30 plus minutes in an NBA game every other night. John Collins, I want to say I trust him in fantasy, but you really can't. Like, his production is so sporadic. But then you see an outing like this, and you're like, oh yeah, he can be a star. If Kessler misses more time, by all means, throw Collins into your starting lineup, but I don't think that that's going to be the case.
We're going to wrap up this segment with the team that has probably had the most injuries of anybody. The New Orleans Pelicans lost yet another player. Jose Alvarado has a hamstring injury. When it was initially reported, they said he was going to be out 6 weeks. Then there was another report that he'd be reevaluated in 3. So I guess look at this as anywhere from a 3 to 6 week injury. I'd say he's probably going to be out at least a month. But man, the Pelicans just the only good news for them is that Trey Murphy, who was out earlier in the season, is back. But it's ugly right now in New Orleans, Kieran.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about Trey Murphy missing time. Now Jose Alvarado, and then you got CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, Herbert Jones, Zion Williamson, Jordan Hawkins. Like, aside from Brandon Ingram, like basically their entire preferred / desired rotation has missed extended time. It's amazing that they're staying afloat. We'll see if Trey Murphy, he was a little rusty in his debut. But with all these injuries, like I'm circling Trey Murphy and Brandon Ingram right now as like guys that will have a bunch of usage. They're probably rostered in a bunch of leagues. I know Brandon Boston was a big time pickup recently. Jalen Noel was also signed, because of all of the injuries. I think he could, maybe get some more PT with Alvarado out. But this is just, we're throwing darts right now, right? Like outside of Murphy and Ingram, like this is just like, maybe you get a big hit in DFS. Maybe you get a big hit on like a streamer, but there's nothing like predictable about what's going to happen in New Orleans in the next couple of weeks.
Now, with so many injuries, you can't just sit on your hands and say my fantasy season's over. You got to make moves. Well, sometimes in order to add those guys off the waiver wires, you have to make a difficult drop decision. So we're going to talk about some players or whether or not it's time to drop or hold them if you need a roster spot. But first, let's hear a word from our friends at DraftKings Pick6.
Here at RotoWire, we're proud to be partnered up with DraftKings Pick6 this NBA season. Think your team will score more than 100 points tonight? How about your favorite point guard making more than 4 3-pointers? Check out DraftKings Pick6, the newest way to play fantasy basketball and win cash with DraftKings. Here's how it works. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players of the same sport and choose if they'll have more or less of a given stat. So for hoops, we're talking points, assists, rebounds, etc. Lock in those picks. Compete against opponents for your shot at huge cash prizes. Go download the new DraftKings Pick6 app right now and use our code ROTOPICK, ROTOPICK. That's code ROTOPICK for new Pick6 customers. Play $5, get $50 in Pick6 credits guaranteed. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thank you again to DraftKings Pick6 for sponsoring the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Okay, now, roster spots are a premium right now. So many guys are hurt. Is it time to cut some dead weight on your roster? Or are we holding on to it? I titled this Hit the Bricks in our show rundown. Are we dropping some of these guys? All right, Kerrion, first up, let's start off with a heavy hitter right away. Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers is still rostered in 96% of Yahoo leagues. He has not played this season. We have had no updates regarding his status since he was ruled out indefinitely at the beginning of the season. What are we doing, Kerrion, with Kawhi Leonard?
Look, I mean, we talked about this before the season, right? And it was like, oh, Kawhi's not going to play in the season opener. And I was like, the chat was blowing up at me saying, oh, he'll be back. He'll be back. And I was like, look, this next week we could see a report that says Leonard is out 2 to 3 months. And that's essentially what happened. History tells us that when Kawhi is healthy, he can put up solid numbers, right? He's done this time after time after time where he gets hurt for an extended period, comes back, looks like an MVP candidate, gets hurt again. If you're off to like a fine start, you've won a couple of weeks, or you're high in the standings and you have an IR spot available, there's no reason to drop Kawhi, right? Like you can hold on to him for a rainy day, see what happens. But if injuries are piling up on your squad and you're not off to the start you wanted, maybe you've lost a couple games, you're slipping down the standings, injuries are piling up on your team, you should seriously consider dropping Kawhi Leonard. for a player that can actually provide you value in the short term and get you some wins. I'm not saying drop Leonard for a guy that you're not going to immediately put into your starting lineup, but if one of those top waiver wire guys is available, we talked about Brandon Boston being like a really top guy. Jordan Hawkins was a pickup before then. You got to seriously consider it. You look at like Benedict Mathurin, he's just rostered in a barely above 50% of leagues right now. I'd much rather have Mathurin because I'm going to put him in my starting lineup and start him for weeks after this than I would Kawhi Leonard at this moment.
Completely agree. Some of the stars that are out right now, you mentioned Zion Williamson. We talked about Kevin Durant, Paolo Banchero, Scotty Barnes. And these aren't guys that are just missing 1 or 2 games. These are guys that are going to be out for weeks. We can't hold – if you've got – say you're in a league with 1 IR spot and you've got Paolo Banchero and you've got 3 other guys hurt on your team, you've got to drop Kawhi Leonard. I'm sorry. He's not going to come back for at least another 3-4 weeks. When he does come back, who's to say he's going to stay healthy? So if you're in a tough spot, you've got a lot of injuries on your team, you've only got limited IR spots, I agree with you, Kieran. It is time to drop Kawhi Leonard. All right, next. Maybe this will be our second. We kind of had to stretch the Bulls minute on that first one, talking about Jimmy Butler. This will be like a semi. Maybe if we combine this with the other one, it's a true Bulls minute. Alex Caruso of the Thunder is rostered in 66% of Yahoo leagues. He has scored at least 10 points in a game just 2 times this season. He is averaging 4.2 points, 2.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and 1.7 steals per game. He is only averaging 20 minutes a game. Bulls fans, we love Alex Caruso. But Kieran, fantasy-wise, hit the bricks?
Yeah, it's about that time. Even if Caruso got a starting role to open his tenure with the Thunder, I would have still been like hesitant about his fantasy production. Then the Hartenstein injury happened, and I was like, well, maybe, Caruso could see 28, 29 minutes a night. Nope, still not. And then the Chet injury, and I was like, okay, well, now definitely he's going to see 25 plus, 30, close to 30 minutes a night. Still no. Clearly, OKC has a plan to keep Caruso healthy for the playoffs. He hasn't been able to do that, but we know his impact when he is healthy. So yeah, I think it's fair to move on in Caruso in standard leagues. His season, you mentioned he's averaging around 20 minutes per game. His season high is 22. That you're not going to deliver much fantasy production with only, playing 22 minutes. He's still like an option, if you're in like a 16 or 20 team league, super deep league in categories, he can still give you solid defensive stats, even in these limited minutes. But if you're in a standard 12, 10, even a 14 team league, and you aren't super desperate for steals, he's definitely a drop candidate.
Yeah, we talk about, punt builds. I'm punting points. I'm punting rebounds. Well, with Caruso, you're punting points, rebounds, and assists. So unless you decided to punt those 3 main categories, you're not really getting much from Caruso other than steals. Exactly like you said, the Thunder have championship aspirations. Alex Caruso can help them win a championship with the style of defense that he plays, but he's got to be healthy for the playoffs, and they know he's had his injury history, so they're going to probably keep him at this limited minutes throughout much of the season. All right, now we're going to move on to another currently injured player, Herbert Jones of the Pelicans. Now, on November 1st, he was ruled out for 2 to 4 weeks with a shoulder injury. Before he went down, he wasn't playing great. He was averaging 6.8 points, 2.5 rebounds, 1.8 steals, and half a three-pointer per game. Now, we talked about all of the injuries on the Pelicans, so when he comes back, maybe he could play a lot. So what are we doing with Herbert Jones right now?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When I saw this name on the list, I was like, well, if he comes back and none of these other guys come back, he could have a really big role. Realistically, they're probably all going to come back around the same time. And then he's going to be stuck in his usual role, which is the 1.8 assists, nearly 2 assist steals. He's a big steals guy. He's going to get those steals. And then an occasional 3, not much else, maybe some rebounds. So I don't think like he's a must roster guy. If you have an IR spot available, by all means, keep him there. And when he comes back, he could be productive. But like similar to Kawhi, like Benedict Mathurin is available in more leagues than Herbert Jones is available in. We're talking about a guy that just scored 38 points. His rebounding numbers are way up. He's taking on an increased role with injuries on the wings in Indiana. Like Mathurin should be rostered in twice as many leagues as Herbert Jones at this point. No like dig at Herbert Jones. He's just a player that's unavailable at the moment and has a limited skill set, whereas Mathurin is a guy that can do just about anything and is finally getting that opportunity to shine.
He's almost Herbert Jones is almost like a little bit better version of Caruso right now.
Yeah.
He's going to get you the same amount of steals. He's got more scoring upside. The problem is exactly like you said. Herbert Jones, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, they're probably all going to return around the same time. And Trey Murphy's back. So as ugly as things are for the listen, if he was healthy right now, you're holding on to Herbert Jones and you're enjoying the fun.
Yeah.
But he's not healthy right now. And when he comes back, the depth will probably be better around him. So I agree with you. I don't think he's someone that you have to hold on to right now. All right. Golden State Warriors. Trayce Jackson-Davis is rostered in 56% of Yahoo leagues. He is averaging 7.9 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists per game. He has started all 11 games this season. He's averaging 17 minutes. What are we doing with Jackson-Davis?
Yeah, TJD is a drop, sadly. I loved him coming into the season. I was excited that he won this, the starting center role. But he played 25 minutes in the season opener and has not reached that mark since. So, we've talked about the Warriors rotation. It's a mess. There's guys, well, if you don't get back on defense, you're out. You commit a turnover. Well, unless you're Steph Curry, you're out. Like they're 12 deep, 13 deep. They don't need to play guys 20, 30 minutes every night. I love what he brings to the table from like a winning perspective, but it's just from a fantasy perspective, it's just not there yet. He's not getting those double doubles. The defensive stats are hard to rack up when you're only playing, the 20 plus minutes. Like you said, he averaging 17, 16. He's played 20 plus minutes only 3 times. Like this is just not viable. We're talking 32 team league, maybe you're starting him, but outside of that, like there's just not much to see here.
Yeah, you're probably going to need multiple injuries on the Warriors for Jackson-Davis to even sniff 25 minutes a game, because even Kevon Looney's been playing well lately.
Mm-hmm.
He had 11 rebounds the other night. So the Warriors are definitely not hurting for big men. I agree with you. This was one of the easiest ones on the list for me. He's someone to definitely drop. Now, a veteran. We went from a youngster. Now let's talk about a veteran. Mike Conley Jr. of the Timberwolves is currently rostered in 51% of Yahoo leagues. His numbers are way down. He's averaging 7.4 points, 3 rebounds, 4.7 assists, and 1.5 3-pointers per game. Now, why is his scoring down? Well, part of the reason is he's shooting 31.3% from the field. That is grotesque. However, another big reason, he's only averaging 24 minutes per game. Kirian, what are you doing with Mike Conley Jr.?
Yeah, I'm not saying drop him in a 10-team league, but it's time to start looking for other options. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but there's going to be a point this season where Dante DiVincenzo takes on a much larger role for this Timberwolves team. Even if they, win some games, they're like 6-5 right now, I believe. Should probably look that up before I say it to the masses and spread misinformation like our guy Aaron Rodgers. But,
oh no, I knew that was coming up.
but Conley has yet to play more than 27 minutes in a game. He's played 24 or fewer in 5 of the last 6. Dante DiVincenzo was an absolute legend in New York for what he did, and a little bit in Golden State, but mostly what he did in New York last year. DiVincenzo brings like a different element than Conley brings at this point in his career. I love Conley in the playoffs. He's going to have a role. But for fantasy, we're looking at 28, 30 minutes a game, double-digit scoring, double-digit assists. What's he bringing? And that's just hasn't been Conley's production so far. He has 3 double-digit scoring games and 1 double-digit assist game. You want to see that at least like maybe in like 50% of games if you're in a 12-team league to keep him rosterable. There's better options out there, and it's not like he's going to explode and have a 30-point, 15 or 15 assist game. That's just not what Conley is at this point in his career. So I think there's a very limited upside, and that his floor is getting lower and lower as the games go by. So just not a recipe for fantasy success at this point.
Yeah, to me, 10-team league, easy drop. 12-team league, no problem if you want to drop them. 14 and deeper, okay. because he is still getting a decent amount of assists,
Yeah.
and assists are not easy to find on the waiver wire. But there is no reason for the Timberwolves to play him a ton of minutes, just like you said with DiVincenzo now in the fold. And even Nickeil Alexander-Walker is playing well. It would probably take a significant injury to one of those two for Conley to even come close to sniffing 30 minutes a game. He's not a high usage rate guy, even when he is playing a lot. So, yeah, I have no problem moving on from Conley if you need. Now, we're going to go from one old guy to another old guy. Al Horford. Now, he's rostered in 42% of Yahoo leagues. He's averaging 8.6 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.1 steals, and 2 3-pointers per game. Even with Kristaps Porzingis out, Horford is averaging just 27 minutes per game this season. This, to me, is I was surprised he was even rostered in more than 40% of leagues. He's not playing a lot. The Celtics are not going to play him a lot. They would rather play Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman. They need Horford ready for the playoffs. To me, Kieran, this is one of the easiest drops. I can't believe he's still rostered in this many leagues. There is zero upside with Al Horford. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think you said it. The Kristaps Porzingis injury probably enticed some drafters. But it was like, oh, if KP is going to miss time, Horford will get a couple months of production. But we have to be realistic. He's one of the older players in the league. He sat out back-to-back, one half of back-to-backs all of last season. If you're in a week-long, lineup setting, there's just no reason to have him, because even if you have him for 4 games, one of those is a back-to-back. He's going to miss one of those. No upside here. I would say, like, if you're in a daily lineups league, maybe like you can throw him in as like a streamer every once in a while. But even then, like, similar to Conley, the upside is just not there for these aging veterans. Like, you look down the laundry list of studs that the Celtics have, and Horford on the option on offense is probably like 7th or 8th at this point. He in the playoffs, there's going to be I'll say it right now. There's going to be an Al Horford game where he makes 6 or 7 threes, right? Like that's just like what he does, but it's not going to be every other day in the regular season. And we need that steady production in fantasy to stay at the top of the standings.
Completely agree. All right, now it's time to call everybody into the room for the favorite segment of the show. But before we get to our what was that stat lines of the week, let's hear a word from our friends at Vivid Seats. Finally, the NBA is back and court is in session. And to start the season, Vivid Seats is offering fans $20 off their first $200 purchase. Nothing beats seeing your favorite team hooping it up in front of thousands of cheering fans. Every slam dunk, every fast break, and every buzzer beater of your favorite team live and in person. Because Vivid Seats is the only leading ticket company with a rewards program, you can earn perks on every purchase, like amazing deals and unrivaled annual rewards all season long. Plus, with a 100% buyer guarantee, you can be sure your ticket is as legit as your love for the game. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today and use promo code RotoWire for $20 off your first $200 purchase. That's promo code ROTOWIRE for $20 off your first minimum $200 ticket purchase. Download the app or visit vividseats.com. Vivid Seats, experience it live. Okay, now that everyone's huddled around their computer and phone, and maybe this is on your TV, Kieran, what was that stat line of the week?
All right, I'm going positive for my what was that stat line of the week. Dyson Daniels has 23 steals over his last 4 games. What is that? I'm stealing some of these stats from Zach Lowe's tweet earlier this morning, but Daniels is averaging 3.6 steals per game. The all-time NBA record is 3.7 steals per game, set by Elvin Robertson. NBA didn't start recording steals until the mid-70s, so there probably was somebody who's broken this record before. But Daniels is well on his way to setting that record this season. Another ridiculous stat, Daniels leads the NBA in deflections with 76. Our guy, Alex Caruso and Nikola Jokic are tied at second, and they're only at 44. Daniels almost has twice as many deflections as the second highest people in the entire league. Daniels is an absolute menace defensively, and the DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels trade is turning out to be an absolute steal for the Hawks. Although, there's the caveat that DeJounte Murray is injured and every single person in New Orleans is injured. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean, and Daniels, I remember I do a weekly waiver wire column for RotoWire and NBA.com, and he was available. He was in my first column of the season, and he has been, if you picked him up, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but toot. But if you did pick him up, man, he's been one of the more valuable. I mean, he's single-handedly, if you're in a category league, he's winning you steals every week.
I would say that he is probably the single most valuable player in fantasy just based off of where you drafted him or if you got him off waiver wires. Like, I don't think that is a stretch. Our stake league 16-team auction draft, he was drafted, but only for like a couple of dollars. So like, this is a guy that widely available in every league, and he is just an absolute stud right now.
Now, we are going all positive today on the What Was That stat line of the week. I also have a positive stat line. Nikola Jokic on November 10th against the Mavericks, 37 points, 18 rebounds, 15 assists, 3 steals, and 3 3-pointers over 38 minutes. What was that? That was fantastic. That's what it was. He has 4 straight triple-doubles. He has a triple-double in 5 of 7 home games this season. He missed a 6th one by 1 assist. So if you're on the wagering side of things, that's something to keep an eye on. Jokic says, hold on a minute to Victor Wembanyama when it comes to being the top overall player in fantasy basketball. Nikola Jokic, the triple-double machine, no depth around him. What was that stat line of the week? It was fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. And you're totally right. Wemby is off to a little bit of a slow start. Jokic is proving that he probably should have been the number 1 pick given his, consistency. I still think Wemby, he's going to explode here at some point and probably make it worth it. In the only league that I have Jokic in, I actually lost last week.
Oh.
Even after this gaudy stat line tried to save me on Sunday, I lost by like 1 point, and Brandon Podziemski scored like 0.7 or something. He played 15 minutes and was held scoreless. The game before that, he had like 15.7 rebounds and 5 assists. The process was right, folks. That's the big thing here in fantasy. The process can be right and the results are wrong, but you have to stick with the process.
I am facing Jokic in the FSGA Champions Points League this week, and I am very excited that the Nuggets only play 2 games. That might be my only hope of winning that. Because when you play Jokic in the point leagues, it's not pretty.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I was like, I just barely, I was undefeated, won the first 2 weeks, had a big lead, thought I was going to win, lose by half a point, and then I'm like, I'll bounce back next week. Jokic is only playing 2 games. I'm screwed. Well.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us for the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by DraftKings Pick6. You've got your information for the week. Talked about some players to drop. We hit all the latest injury news. So Kieran and I will be back with you again Wednesday of next week to help you give all the information that you need to win your fantasy basketball leagues. Thank you, and good luck this week, everyone.
Good luck. Have a good one.